Good day, all, and welcome to another edition of Local Legislator Live at 11. I am your host, Charles Gates, and we do call these raw interviews because sometimes we have technical difficulties, which we are experiencing now. However, that is past tense. We are now live and in color. We've got a wonderful guest for you today, and her name is Amy Voltaire. And Amy is an established published author. If you've ever wondered what it took to write a book, the process, and how you get your names out there, Amy Voltaire is just that person to share that with us. So, good morning, Amy. How are you?
Good morning. Fine. Thank you for having me.
Good, good, good. Listen, we do call these raw interviews, which means we don't use fillers, we don't use fluff. We're going to jump right into this. Now, Amy Voltaire, what led you to become an author?
It started back in elementary school. One of my teachers selected me, I think in maybe sixth grade, to go to a thing called the Young Authors Conference. And it was me and I think a couple of other students, and they helped us take things we've written and make little books out of them. They were made out of cardboard, and then they gave us like wallpaper to wrap them with and make them look professional. And then we got to go to the conference and take our books, and we got to meet a real author. And so that kind of was the beginning spark, because it was like, well, that must mean I'm kind of good at this. And then I didn't write like creatively for a really long time after that. In fact, I think what got me started writing creatively again was writing speeches for Toastmasters. So that's how, and then after I got my DTM in Toastmasters, it was like, okay, well, I'm done with school stuff. I'm done with certifications. I'm done with my DTM. I can write a book now. And so that's how that came about. I'd always wanted to do it. I just had everything else going on in the meantime.
And Toastmasters was the spark that made that happen. For our viewers out there who don't know what DTM stands for, in Toastmasters International, which is a public speaking leadership building organization. The DTM is the highest educational award you can get. It's called the Distinguished Toastmaster, which means you have given at least 40 speeches and you have led different workshops, trainings, youth conferences, and you name it. Those are the criteria for getting to the highest distinction of Distinguished Toastmaster, aka DTM. Now, Amy, what is the basic plot of your novel, which I happen to have right here in my hand? My
Yay.
name is Aaron, and my mom's an addict.
I still smile when I see that cover. It's a young adult novel, and it's contemporary, which means, like happening now, kind of realistic. It's about a girl named Erin. She's 14, and she's being raised by her grandparents because when she was 5 years old, well, her father had passed away when she was 2. And so when she was 5, her mom was a heroin addict and went to get a fix and just never came home. So she comes home after school and she's sitting there on her front porch, and a neighbor comes by and takes her in, and eventually they contact the grandparents, and the grandparents take her in and raise her. And in the beginning of the book, she is starting ninth grade. She makes her first real friend ever, and she likes a boy in her class. So she's doing some writing stuff for one of her classes too. So everything's going along just really smoothly for her. And then her mom decides that she wants to try to get clean and come back into her life. And so that's where the action starts, I guess you could say.
Okay, now what was the inspiration behind that plot?
Well, like I said, I wanted to write a book, and I would sit there and think, what can I write about? What can I write about? Everything. I felt like everything had been done, although everything has. You're kind of, if you're writing something, part of it at least has already been done. But I went over to someone's house, and that person is helping to raise their grandchildren because their parents are addicts. And I came home, and it just hit me. I was sitting on my couch, and it just hit me. And it was like, I can write a book for them. So that's how I ended up writing a young adult book. I didn't plan on that. That wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was like, they need this. They need something, that they can read, that's like somebody understands what I'm going through. So that was the inspiration, the kids who are going through it right now. And there are a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, you know, we had a guest on here a few weeks ago, uh, Ann Morse Rogers. She's an advocate against suicide and depression and anxiety and those type of mental illness issues. And I tell you what, she was talking about some of the things that, because I've read your, by the way, I've read your book. I don't just
Oh,
have it. I've read it, and some of the things you talk about in there, she expressed as well. And to have kids out there right now who are going through these issues in this moment, that's why I thought it was so inspirational to have you on here to share what was the thought process behind that. And now that you've shared, because I never knew what the inspiration was. So now
right,
that you've shared that with us, we are so delighted to know the reasoning. Had it not been for that visit, this book may not have been written in the way that it was written. So that's
right.
very interesting to know. But what was your writing process during the book writing journey?
I sat down. I had read a book called On Writing, a memoir of the craft by Stephen King, and I had read that actually a couple times. And he says, just start writing, write 1,000 words a day. He writes 2,000. So because he writes 2,000, and because I just like I love him. I said, well, if he writes 2,000 words a day, I'm going to write 2,000 words a day. So I started in December of, I think it was 2018, or maybe it was, I can't remember. It was December of one year. But, that's there's a lot of time off from work during December because of the holidays and everything. And then, I had some vacation and stuff. So I said, well, I'll do it in December, and then I can write 1,000 words a day. When I came home from work, sometimes, it was hard to like squeeze everything in because you have to do everything, work, and then come home and take care of the animals and all that. So I just wrote at least 1,000. I always shot for 2,000 words a day. Um, so I would just sit down and write, and sometimes the words didn't want to come, but I did it anyway. And after 30 days, I had a book, a first draft anyway.
30 days from start to where you were? Really? 30
Yeah,
days?
yeah, it's almost a 60,000 word book. So if you write, close to 2,000 words a day, it doesn't take long for it to add up if you think about it that way. Of course, that was just the first draft that was done. The
Mm-hmm.
rest of the stuff is what takes the longest after that.
Mm-hmm. And could you share with us what are some of those things after that?
Well, you have to find a way to get it published. There's different types of publishing. There's traditional publishing, and that's where you go out and you query agents, and agents act as kind of like, I guess, liaisons to publishers. In other words, I can't directly pitch my book to a publisher. They won't look at it. They'll only look at things that agents pitch to them. So you have to find an agent if you're going to traditionally publish. And I think I sent out 26 query letters. They say to send out, at least 80 before you start to think about other stuff. But because of the fact that even once you get an agent, it can take up to 2 years for your book to end up on the shelf. And I felt like this subject matter was so important that I wanted to get it out now so kids could read it now. That I just went ahead and found in fact, actually, it was you. I talked to you at something at a Toastmasters event, and you said call Pat Dugan. And so I called her, and she referred me to my publisher, which is a local hybrid publisher. And that's kind of like you pay for the services. They do all the work, the editing, the cover. They get it so that you can go online and buy it wherever. So I went with a local hybrid publisher, and that's how I ended up getting published. And in between, of course, there's edit after edit after edit after edit, and there were some parts that her and I were like, she was change this. And I was like, no, I don't want to change that. I want it like this. And she was like, well, I think you should change it. I'm like, no, it's got to be like that. So anyways, it's just kind of a long process. I think I pitched to her in September, and the book came out that April, which is actually pretty quick.
Wow, that is really quick compared to what you initially said it could take maybe 2 years to get it done.
From the time you get an agent. Yep.
Wow, that's interesting. And to our viewers out there, if you like this interview and you'd like to see more like it, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, connect with us on Twitter and Instagram, and like our face page and connect with us on LinkedIn. I always forget about LinkedIn, but connect with us on LinkedIn. And most important, remember to leave us a comment to let us know who or what you would like to hear from in the future. We'll do our best to get that person or that organizational rep on the air as quickly as possible. And lastly, don't forget that we're also doing the Raw Candidate Interview Series. They're not being shown live, but we are interviewing all of the local candidates who are willing in the Hampton Roads and Richmond metro area who are willing to be interviewed to simply get their words out there. It is no cost to them, and we would be happy to entertain whatever they've got to say. And Amy, what has the reaction been so far from your readers?
It's been mostly positive. I think, you know, it's sometimes hard to tell because when you sell books like on Amazon or whatever, unless somebody leaves a review, you don't know. But when it first came out, it was in April of last year. I had a lot of people messaging me and texting me and things like that, saying that they really enjoyed it. I had people say that, I wish this book would have been out when I was younger and I was going through similar things. So it made me feel good that it helped somebody at least, and they enjoyed it. And then that's how I ended up writing this next book with the same characters, because everybody wants to, well, what happens next with her? So I was like, okay, they want more of Aaron, then that's a good sign. So I'll give them more of Aaron.
And that was a segue into my very next question. And that I do understand you are working on a new novel. How much can you tell us about that? I know you can't disclose, but so much, but give us a little tidbit.
Okay, so the new novel, it's also narrated by Aaron. It's less about her and what she's going through in her life. It's part what she's going through in her life. She meets a new friend, and that girl gets brought into their friend group, and she has some issues. And so Aaron's trying to be a good friend to her and help her through some things. And then there's another friend who was in the last book. I don't know if you remember Jimmy in that book. Well, Jimmy, when I initially started writing this second book, it was going to be about the new girl. And then Jimmy was like, nope, this one's about me. Oh. So it's got a lot about Aaron and Jimmy and some things that he's going through and how she and her family might end up helping him.
It sounds like a must read when it comes out. Any idea when that one's coming out?
No, I'm going to try to do agents this time, and I've only pitched a couple so far. I don't feel like this one is, I think this is an issue that kids will always struggle with. So I don't feel like it's like, I got to get it out here while it's still relevant.
Right.
I'm kind of taking my time a little bit more on this one.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, the way the last one was written, I would have no idea that it was written in such a quick manner, because it looks as though based on the words and the stories, it seems as though you took years to put that project together. But according to you, it was boom. And I think the secret sauce was dedicating and committing to those number of words each time you write. Now, let me ask you about that. In terms of writing those 1,000 words or 2,000 words, is that every single day you commit to that?
Yes.
Or is that,
yes.
It is every Saturday, Sunday, Monday, every day?
Everything. Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. That is a commitment. Two more questions for you. When it comes to publishing, there can be I know there's a lot of different options for publishing. Can you talk about some of those options that are available?
Yeah, so there's traditional, like I had to plug my phone in.
Don't worry about it.
Dying.
That's why we call these raw interviews. Don't worry about
it. So there's traditional, which is what I talked about with me having to get an agent to go between. With traditional publishing, you have kind of less control over certain things, like even cover art, even the title of your book, you have less control over that. With hybrid, you have more control. And with self-publishing, you have all the control. But like my publisher tells people, if you're going to self-publish, that's fine and there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to treat it like a business. You have to get it professionally edited, get a professional cover. Don't be just throwing trash out on the internet just because you want to be a book writer. So those are the three different kinds. Self-publishing, of course, you get all the proceeds. With traditional publishing, I think that authors only get like 8% of proceeds because the publisher's the one they pay the cost of printing books and they pay marketing costs and all that stuff. And with the hybrid, I think like 60, 70, maybe even 80% because, I paid for those services up front. And so she only gets like a certain percentage off of like Amazon sales or something. So you get a lot, depending on what you're looking for, the different ways you want to decide to go, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that was interesting. Never thought about that. And thank you for sharing. Last question to you, Amy. How can we find out more about you, your books, or how to purchase this book and your upcoming book?
Okay, so I have a website where I blog. There's a lot of information on there. There's interviews on there. There's reviews on there. There's links to buy the book. My website is called amywritesstuff.com. And so then I have a Facebook author page. It's Amy Voltaire author. It's on Amazon. And because of the way that I publish, my publisher did it through Ingram Spark, I think it's called. So you can pretty much type in the title of that book and it'll come up. You can buy it at Target. You can buy it online at Walmart, Barnes and Noble. It's pretty much, you can find it anywhere.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Amy. And I will tell you, for our readers out there, it is only 240 some odd pages, and it is a good read. It is, again, My Name is Aaron, and My Mom's an Addict by Amy Voltaire. And by the way, Voltaire is Voltaire, for those of you who may not be familiar with how to spell that last name. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for being here. And to our viewers out there, again, connect with us on all the socials where you can find us everywhere at Local Legislator LLC. That's where we can be found. And tomorrow, you want to make sure you check in because we're going to have Kim Ellis. Kim Ellis, she is another local business owner here in the Hampton Roads area, and she has a very unique business that you want to check into. I'm not going to give you a clue as to what it's about, but you want to make sure you check in with it and be enlightened and inspired. Amy, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. You've been a wonderful guest, and thank you for sharing your wisdom with our viewers out there today. So glad to have you.
I was so glad to be here. It's so good to see you again, Charles.
You're welcome. And I had forgotten all about that recommendation I had given you years ago. And I hear that so often, and I don't even remember this stuff. But that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, right. Yeah, you were part of it.
Oh wow, that makes me feel really, really good. All right, well, thank you so much. And remember, to our viewers out there, remember, we're not global, we're local. This is Local Legislator Live at 11. I'm your host, Charles Gates, signing off until next time. Take care.